I'm ready to read everybody. 1, 2, 3, ready.
1, 2, 3, ready.
BFT, we're so glad to be back at the table with you all.
We're ecstatic.
And, Mr. Smith, glad to have you, see you back over here in the audience. I just want to say, welcome back, everybody. The last time that we bargained, believe it or not, was April 18th. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think before we get started officially with our agenda this afternoon, I would like to offer, now if I've already done this, then just say, Jim, you've already done this, but I
We
think
won't
that
remember. It's
I
okay.
think that we need to congratulate some folks here. First of all, we all know Richard Smith is retiring, and he will be retiring in August. I want to congratulate him on his service to the teachers and to this district for his tenure, not only as an instructor. I knew Richard when he was a physics teacher at THS, and I was a principal over there at Jackson Middle School. But also, he and I got to sit together many times when we were at the table, when we were just peons and just starting off with the bargaining session. But look where we've ended up, Richard. And I just want to say that.
Where did we go wrong?
Yeah, where did we go wrong? But anyway, congratulations to a wonderful career. And I know that in the last couple of weeks, enjoy what it is that we're getting ready to do because, I've been told that retirement is really, really great. So congratulations. But since then, I think we've gotten two new BFT members added to your team. I think we've had elections since our last session.
We do have 2 new vice presidents.
And I think that we have
Would you like to-
congratulations need to be offered to Anthony Colucci,
Yes,
who's
we
now
do.
our new vice president. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on board. And then Vanessa Skipper. And are you vice president third, second?
I'm
What?
second.
Yeah.
They are both vice presidents.
They're
Yeah.
both I know
If
they
we
are
can-
both vice presidents.
They tried to print stuff with the 2 ND, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Wait,
We're
gonna-
spell out the word second, I can't do it.
So anyway, I just wanted to officially welcome you guys, especially since maybe our audience is watching at home or what have you. Welcome aboard. And I'm certain that Richard's got to be proud back there because he's left BFT in good hands. So anyway, yes, Sandy.
Debbie.
Debbie.
That's my sister's
Yes.
name.
Debbie, I'm sorry. Yeah.
A lot of people do that. Well, Mr. Bennett is now,
Well, is he officially?
Not
He's not
until-
official yet.
Not
Monday.
until August 1st.
I was gonna say.
ah,
August 1st, correct?
Mr. Bennett is same old first vice president.
Well, can we go ahead and say congratulations, Dan?
You can, I'll accept your
That
congratulations.
by next week, you will be president.
President-elect.
President-elect.
President by default. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for recognizing our team. Our team members.
Now, I was gonna say, it's been April 18th, and when we left the table, I thought we left with, I think, a lot of good feelings about where we were going with this contract. And if I may say, I've kind of got a tentative agenda today, but of course you all have your agendas as well. But I kind of put things down that we would start off by having Ms. Zucker, excuse me.
One of these
present-
days, they're gonna learn.
I know, Zucker. She's going to present she's going to do a financial presentation. Then we move into offering or giving you all at least a financial offer across the table, our first since we've been marketing.
We are there.
I'd like to kind of recap a little bit since Mark Langdorf is not here, just briefly. I don't want to get into his line of work, but I'd like to talk a little bit about insurance. Then I've got some FYIs that I want to come across the table with, Dan. These are just things that you need to know. I've got budget books for you that we printed.
Cool.
That would be something that I think that you would most want to have in your possession. I also like to give you the new House Bill 7029, which is the teacher change request that came out of statutory language. I want to give you information on that we provided with our principals on how to handle those requests. And then if, with time remaining, I'd like to begin picking back up where we had left off with discussions on the BPS, BFT language and start getting into, where we were with those 9 items that we had kind of left at the table. So if you've got anything, we can add that to the list or move on.
No, that's a fine agenda. I was thinking maybe we should do the the language first and see what we could knock out, at least in the way of proposals, but then I realized we have this machine here, so we can't really see each other. I don't know, maybe,
Yeah.
were you thinking we do the money first and then language, or?
Yes, sir.
That looks like y'all's, well, I have
That's our
no
intent.
objection to that.
We figured you all would be curious as far as, and then if we needed to caucus over that, it would be all across the table with language, with the money proposal and the language, and it wouldn't eat up so much of our time.
That's fine with me. You could, you have the
We
money
changed it.
presentation, and we could work on our language. I'm just kidding. But
Okay.
we'll have, we have a document for you, just where we think we are in language, but we'll yield to the money
Okay.
presentation first.
All right. This presentation was prepared back in June following our budget workshop with board. I actually wanted you to see it because even though, you know, the workshop's been out there where you can see it, because I thought it's important that you hear and see from me and what everyone else has seen. As Dan and I have talked, and you should hear from me frequently at the board and at budget workshops, is transparency, transparency, transparency. So I thought it was only right that I share with you exactly what 1010 has seen, what our situation is, so that you have the full picture of the information. So that's what I'm going to go over. We start out, of course, our student memberships, and FTE is what drives it. Student membership, for those who may not know, I think you're all in schools, so I would expect you do, but just to be clear, seat time is student membership. Doesn't matter how many classes they take, it's how many students are sitting in a seat who show up for school. Excuse me, it's the numbers who show up for school that attend one period or more. FTE is seat time, so that's the number of periods they attend. Frequently, FTE comes in less than membership. Some of the reasons for that is pre-K. Pre-K is not a fundable FTE. It doesn't get counted, but it's membership. Another example would be a homeschool student who comes to a high school to take a specific class that he can't get at homeschool, but he needs for his planned college. So that student would only get a partial of an FTE funding and not a full. So those are a couple of the reasons of why they've been down. You can see in general, we've been pretty flat the last few years. Relatively back through 13, it's been somewhere between 69,000 to this year we're looking at 69.6. Unfortunately, though, the charter schools is where a lot of the growth has occurred, and continues to occur. From this presentation, we have since come back and found that Legacy and what was the other charter school?
It is Orion.
Orion are not going to be opening. So in that account, the Orion numbers will move back over to the district, so there'll be some change in there. But in general, this is a good aggregate picture of what's going on with our student membership and our full-time equivalent, which is what we're funded on by the FEFT. Our taxable values, this is what they've looked like. This particular number was an estimate from the property appraiser back early June at 35 million. We've come in just about that number, slightly higher, but not significantly. You can see we have not quite reached the 2009-2010 level, or our highest, which was 2008-2009, but we are seeing a decent increase each year, and we're hoping that that will continue enough so we can get back into that closer to our high in the next few years. Our millage rates, required local effort, which is the one that we're required, hence the required to receive state funding. Our discretionary that we're allowed to levy to gain additional money, and our local capital improvement. So this year we're looking at, actually these numbers have changed slightly. We're at 4,668 for our required local effort, it's actually come down somewhat from what we were looking at or seeing from the conference report. This number here was the conference report. What I'll present tomorrow night at the hearing is 4.668 for the required local effort. One thing that's important about this, and even more important when you consider we've had a slight decrease, is these two numbers here. What happened back during, right at the end of legislative session, Senate and House, and I'm sure you were aware of this, were real close in their numbers. The districts were getting real excited because the two houses were really close in their numbers. Normally that means we're going to get something like that. Everyone was thinking it would be the lower end, which I believe was the House. And some districts actually started planning and negotiating based on those. What happened at the 11th hour, is the legislation came in, particularly the Speaker of the House and the Senate President, and said, let's not do that. We don't want to raise taxes, and while, you know, with the increase in property value, even if we leave taxes flat, people are going to pay more taxes. Let's use what they call the rolled back rate. And what the rolled back rate is, and they set it at a state level, is the rate that a property owner would pay if their value had not changed. So what, for the value you have now, what is the rate to get back to what they paid the previous year? And in doing that, our district lost 0.4 mils. And when you take that against what the value was, that's $14 million that we were unable to get due to that one little 11th hour change. Some of our other funding factors, our base student allocation, that was supposed to be quite a bit higher number. Because of that change, it got rolled back. I think it was supposed to have been around $31, if I remember correctly. It increased by $6.26. Our FTE, between the 2 years, we got through the FEFP 522.34. For the first time in quite a while, our district cost differential went below 1. And that's where they look at the cost of the districts and say who costs more. And it's been a number of years, I know at least more than 10 since we were below 1, and we have dropped below 1. So that meant through those calculations, they actually then came in and gave us 99.43% of what was calculated from the top numbers. We don't get declining enrollment supplement because we don't have a declining enrollment, and we don't get sparsity supplement because we're a very dense county with population. These are some of the categoricals that we got this year, and of the increase that the state had advertised everyone was getting, for us it was about 3.8 million of it's tied up into FEFP, into categoricals, thank you. With the biggest portion being an ESC guaranteed allocation and supplemental academic allocation. And in some cases you see it went down, but it's certainly, the increase was in areas that, while important, are not overly flexible. Our new funding, I think this is a really interesting schedule. This is looking back to 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, and then this year, and how much new funding we got. So in 13, 14, we got a total of 22.6. Sounds like a lot, and it was. The biggest portion, which is that blue box black, was the legislative raises for teachers. So that was included in our new money. The next year we got 13 million. And again, the blue box on the 3 years that have gone by represent the portion of the new money that's gone towards raises. Last year we were fortunate to get $22.8 million. And this year our total new was 7.3. And when you came in and took out the things that had to go into that, which is charter schools, staffing increase, FRS increase, and looking for what the other colors, categoricals. It left somewhere around $4.5 million left, $1.45 million left. Let me make sure I say that again, $1.45 million left. And at this point, when this was done, of course, that's to be determined. We haven't assigned it to anything. Fund balance, this is always something everyone's interested in. This was a projected number back at that time. Accounting services will be closing early next week. We should be in the next week or so having a good idea of what that is. We know we've got close to 30 million in carryovers that are going to come from encumbrances and school carryovers. We know we have 20 million, the 19,880 contingency. So we were projecting 50 million of fund balance at the time here. Of that, assigned, unassigned was 47. 19.8 has to come out of that for the contingency. And then we know right now we've got like just under 30 million in carryovers. We have several reserves for McKay Scholarship, various that we have to put into that. One thing that's good about this is from a financial perspective, the district is in good financial condition. The DOE, as far as solvency, our financial condition ratio measured by DOE at the end of 14-15 was 8.9. I was estimating back at the early June 8.98. I haven't seen the latest numbers, so what it's getting close to being now, I'm not really certain. This is looking at just some financial condition ratios of other districts. The gold bar is where we stand. Orange County set at the end of 14-15 at 22.65%, Indian River 11.46, Osceola 10.9, Volusia 7.2, and I went ahead and threw in there where I came from, Polk, because we were only at 6.7 last year. So you can see we're not way up there in the top of having a really high fund balance, but we're in a decent financial condition not to have to worry about being insolvent. Now, one of the things that I've heard over the years and from other unions is the fund balance. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about here, and there's no way really to cover it, focus on the left-hand side of the screen for a moment. These are the actual results of 2012-13, 2013-14, 2014-15. If you go down to the bottom, you'll see our fund balances, our non-spendable and restricted fund balances, our assigned, our contingency, and then what was left over and unassigned. And in that are things such as carry forwards and PO encumbrances and so forth. But one thing I've always heard from my unions in the past, and I understand where they're coming from, but I've had this conversation with them in the past and wanted to have it, is why can't we use some of that for raises? So I want to give you an example of what happens here. 12-13, you can see unassigned was at 17 million. Let's assume we decided to use 15 million of that for raises. So now we'll move over to the second set of columns and go to 13-14 and the first circled number. If you compare it back, you can see the 15 million gets put in there because the actual spend of expenses of 487 million has to go up by the 15 million we agreed to spend on raises. If we come down and look at what happens to the fund balance, you can see that the fund balance in total now is 34 million. The unassigned is 9.8, and that changed from what it was before. So now we've got 9.8 million. Let's do it again. Let's give $9 million away in raises out of that fund balance. So now we come to 14-15, and the difference between the original 508 million and the 532 is the 15 million we gave the previous year, because that continues, and now the 9 million from the new year. And when that falls down into the numbers, the bottom circle shows you what happened. We're now gone from an unassigned number of $16.2 million loss, which eats into our contingency, and we can expect DOE to be knocking on our door. They're going to tell us we're no longer solvent and we have to fix it. So this is taking real actual numbers, taking real actual fund balances, and saying, let's assume we make those expenditures, because that 15 million we take the first year, that's a recurring 15 million, but the funding source was not. It didn't stay there, okay? It's frozen. Let's try this.
It's not in the boxes.
Yes.
You had.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Titles.
Thank you. Didn't know those were there. There it goes. All right. So this is our pro forma budget, and I do apologize, it is kind of small. And at this point, you can see the first column is the preliminary budget we were looking at the time. The big numbers that are important is going down to here. The adopted budget from last year is the far right. The preliminary budget for this year is the far left. We had 15.4 starting the year last year that was available, unreserved fund balance. We took that to bargaining, gave away a lot, the majority of that, a little more, I think. And this year, at this point, 1.46 million, not 1.45, I was quoting. Any questions?
Is anyone on this side? Well, I'm guessing you'll,
They've
I
seen it
shouldn't
a few
guess.
times.
Yeah. I want to stop your team from asking questions. Does anyone on this side have any questions? I may have a few comments, but I want them to go first if they.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So as teachers, we take the time to prepare for students' success, right? We look at the incoming students, we look at their data, we write lesson plans ahead of time to ensure that they're going to be successful. My concern every year is it's a big surprise that we're looking for raises on a pay-for-performance contract. Now, I know you weren't here previously, so I just don't get it. All the other things seem to fall into place, and those could be funded, but then it's this big surprise. Oh, the teachers on pay for performance are looking for a raise. What crumbs do we have left for them? So if you could kind of elaborate on how do you plan for this every year? We're gonna be here every year saying, hey, we performed.
It's no surprise you're asking for a raise.
Okay.
And I would never say that to you because that would be silly of me to say it. The problem with funding, and I have a 33-plus year career, about 15 years of it in private sector, actually 17 in private sector and the rest in public school districts. There's a big difference. In private sector, it's easier to do a lot of planning because we kind of get to control where the revenue is coming from. In the public sector, it gets to be a little more difficult because just as the example of what happened here, we're starting in January with watching what the legislation's doing, and we were expecting 14 more million than we ended up with at the end of session on the last day. So it's not so much we don't plan for it. One of the other issues comes in is whether the legislature gives it to us in categoricals, which is what they did most of our new money with, or whether we get it in a flexible pot. Then with that, the FRS, that's an increase we can't avoid. If they take the FRS raise premiums up, that's something we have no choice in. Charter schools, I think we are trying to market and get students back to us, moving over to charter schools. What the legislature deems that we have to give them is, again, something out of our control. So of the 7.38, there's nothing there that we just said, we don't care about anyone else, let's go pay this first. It's paying for additional growth and staffing for our growth, putting more teachers into the classroom. It's paying the FRS, it's giving the charter schools what we're legally required to give them. Now, one thing that my new finance administration will be doing going forward, I've been here a whole 4 months, so can't do it all overnight, unfortunately, which is one of my frustrations, because I know lots of things we can do, but you can't do it overnight. We'll be beginning this year doing some projecting forecasts, and I've committed to a 3 to 5 year forecast of what we think might happen to expenses. You know, what would be 3 different scenarios for funding, flat funding, increased funding at the CPI, and if we lose. And that'll be a good planning point. Unfortunately, unlike my private sector business where we can take those and go, okay, this is where we want to be, what do? We've got to sell more, we're going to raise rates, we're going to cut costs. It becomes a little harder to do that. So while it may feel like that's what we're doing, I can assure you, at least under my watch, that's not what we're doing, that's not what we're going to be doing. And one of my big things this year, it's my strategic plan, if you've seen any of the strategic plan, is identifying, we're going to do efficiency studies at the district level, trying to identify inefficient processes to bring costs back in. We're going to be looking at all the cost cutting and other initiatives we've done to see if anything can come back. We're going to be looking at every dollar coming in and every dollar going out that's been spent, with the goal of finding recurring dollars to put back into raises. And that is our goal. Can't do it in 4 months, wish I could, but I can't guarantee you next year I'm going to come in and go, well, we've saved all this, so we're putting it in. But that is our goal going forward, and that is from our superintendent. It's my goal, is we're going to go in and try and look at this and find everything that's recurring, that's being spent where it doesn't need to be, and put it back into raises.
Not, Jim, not yet. I see what you're doing, not yet.
Oh, you want this back
I want
up?
some, yeah.
You know,
I'm sorry.
the flat funding scenario you talk about, knowing our state legislature, legislature, that's what we can expect typically. So I just want to, and I think this is what you're saying, on those flat funding years, we still should be getting paid for our performance according to our contract.
We should be trying to do everything we can to benefit our employees. That's what I'm saying. I can't say those exact words, but I will tell you, if we know it's a flat funding, and frankly, to be honest with you, what I'm hearing from the legislature is next year's a potential loss of 3%. We still need to be looking at what we can be doing. And that's what I'll commit to, is that we will be looking at what is out there, what changes can we do, where can we find savings so that we can put it back into our employees.
Just to piggyback on that, I appreciate the fact that that's your goal and you want to do that, because clearly we know the legislature isn't going to change its tune unless we change it for them. And I was trying to follow along with everything. On those flat years, if we know, like I don't think that any union, or I would hope, wouldn't suggest that every single year we take it out of, was it the contingency fund you were talking about? Right, because obviously you take
the fund balance, you
Fund
can't
every,
take it
if
there
you
every
take
year.
it every year, it's like your sick leave bank. If you
Exactly.
do sick leave buyback every single year, you'll never replenish it.
Exactly.
So there might be some years where we take and we don't take. I mean, is that not?
What we're gonna have to do in those years, and this is what's important about projecting out and looking at today, where we think we would be in year 1, 2, 3, is on the scenarios that are flat or less, and what are the likelihood that we think they are. So right now, if I had to look at next year, my likelihood says flat would be great. We're gonna have to look at then, if, you know, to do the right things and to provide for our employees, where can we go find money to cut? Because we're not sitting with a whole lot of money that's sitting out there that we can take out. We have to go look for recurring dollars. We have to look for recurring dollars that are being spent on stuff that we don't need, reduce budgets in some cases to be able to find that. Along those lines, another one of my processes for next year, too late to get it in this year, is we're going to start looking at our budget process different. Right now, we give them, here's what you had last year, and they tell us what they need. I've successfully implemented both private sector and public sector, looking at a 5-year actuals. What did you spend the last 5 years, and here was your budget. Now let's look and see what you're truly spending. Where we want to get to, and this is something that's going to take 2 to 3 years to really get here and make it effective. Because right now everyone thinks if I don't spend it, I'm going to lose it. It's use it or lose it. And that's not good for you, it's not good for the district, it's not good for anyone. So we want to get people into looking for efficiencies. And if they think that they don't have to spend, they got a $10,000 budget and they think they don't have to spend $2,000, can I save that? Well, their first thing is, well, you're not going to give it to me next year. Well, yeah, I am, because we're going to look at your 5-year history. And if you're spending 10 over the 5 year, we're going to fund you at that. Guess what? Come year 2, 3, we've pushed that back where you've learned to live with an 8. Now we've found $2,000 in recurring dollars because they've learned to live with less that we can go put somewhere else. And it changes the way we budget. So instead of just automatically budgeting that 10, now I found $2,000 in recurring dollars because I've got this person living at 8. Does that make sense?
As a teacher, having to live on less and less, yes, it
So-
does make sense.
And those are what we're going to be looking at.
Thank
And
you.
I do want to encourage departments in schools, and I will say in schools, because I do think there is probably some things that get spent in schools because we don't want to use it or lose it, to look for savings every year and change the way we think about things so that we can go find recurring dollars. We're not going to fix that in 1 year. That, what I just talked about with the budget, I have to gain people's trust that they can start giving up without getting hurt and let them learn that they can live with less. And that's the direction. We're going to change that budgeting process so we can improve things and look at things differently.
I understand the first, the required, the one.
Required
that's-
local effort?
Yeah, I understand
Uh-huh.
that's set by the state. But the other two, the local one, is that
Local
also,
discretionary.
is that also set by the state?
The maximum we're allowed to levy is set by the state. The 0.748 mils that's a maximum. We could choose to levy less.
Don't.
We don't. I will never advise to levy less. 1.5 is for capital projects. That's local capital improvement. We cannot use it for operating funds. That is maxed at 1.5. However, I will say there's a little clause that I've not really known anyone to take up on unless they're in dire straits, where you can reduce the 748 and give some to capital and critical needs. That would be when we'd have to be getting insolvent and can't pay our debt. But those two are maxed. We take them to the max level we're allowed.
No.
All right, thank you
You're welcome.
for that. You haven't given an offer, I mean, it's coming, I know down the road, or soon, you'll be telling us what your offer is based on that. What I'd like to do just first, though, is just give some general impressions
Okay.
of the presentation, just responses, not arguments, but just some responses. That's why, Jim, you were kind of symboling to get that out of there. If we could, Penny, are you controlling the machine, or was that?
I am.
Karen? If you could please just go back to the beginning, and I just want to give just some comments on these slides. This isn't meant to argue or
That's
show off, but this is the sort of thing that, if we were having a general membership meeting or just meeting with the team here, we'd give out printouts and I'd just kind of offer my thoughts on it. So we'll just do
That's
that real
fine.
time, just so you know what's on my mind. Oh, well, that's a beautiful cover page. All right. All right, the membership is certainly something that we look at. For for my purpose, as chief negotiator, we're looking for dollars. It doesn't change our situation. It changes your situation, you have to have that, and I know this is a presentation for the board, but it doesn't change our lives all that much. If we have 100 more students or 1,000 more students, it just means you hire more teachers, a few more dollars, hoping not for proration, so.
Well,
That's
am I
not-
allowed to?
Well, of course, none of this is meant to be argumentative.
and I'm
but I
not
just want you to
trying
know
to argue.
that's not critical to us right now as we try to figure out a salary.
And it may not be critical to you at the moment, other than hiring to hire teachers takes away from the bottom line, but the FTE is what we get funded on.
Right.
That's what drives the FEFP, so having you understand that, but I hear what you're
Right,
saying.
that
That's
starts
fine.
everything, this whole formula, which actually, just so people know, if you look at the camera too and everyone else, as our union, our national analyzes different funding formulas around the country, because every state does it a little bit differently,
Oh,
they have their
yeah.
own laws how they do it. We actually have a pretty good funding formula.
We do.
We have a pretty fair formula that tries to look at cost of living and all kinds of factors. It's complicated, but the more complicated it gets, the more they're aiming for fairness. So we actually have, the state of Florida, a pretty good funding formula. It's just not funded well. They have this good machine, they just don't put any money into it, but it's actually kind of fair. So you're correct, that it starts with that. Taxable value, well, that's fascinating. Of course, it's something that anyone interested in budgets and the board, they need to keep an eye on that. For our purposes, as a union bargaining team, we look at that and realize that, of course, the 1.5 mil for capital, we're rooting for taxable value to go up because it's just straight dollars into the capital fund. For bargaining, we might argue it and say, hey, if you have more money in capital, maybe you could fund some of that hazard insurance or pay some salaries out of that. But it's not a huge thing here, at the bargaining table to look at that. And even the next page, where we start getting into millage rates, there is some crushing news there dealing with that's it, you circle it in red. But it's really the legislature that makes the grand philosophy, what are we doing for schools next year? And they decide how much money will they get, and it's almost like they work backwards. Here's how much money they'll get, and then they work backwards to set a millage rate. And just so everybody knows, all stakeholders, watching at home, anyone, the legislature had a decision to make. They always, every governing body does. The county commission started their argument yesterday. You'll do a presentation tomorrow night, although we don't have a lot of flexibility in the schools, but the county commission does.
County has more than we
But
do.
the flexibility comes at the state when the state decides what the funding will be, and then they set the millage rate to match.
Exactly.
And everyone needs to know that if they had just left the millage rate at that 5.129, and not, every year it fluctuates. But, if they had left it, yeah, that's 14 million more for the district. Although not necessarily, because the legislature sets the dollars that you'll get, and then they take all your dollars you collect for operating, and they collect it up there, and then they just make up the difference however they do it. So even if you collect a little bit more locally, that means the state portion will be a little bit less that they give you, right? They're gonna, based on the FEFP.
In most cases, you're correct.
They're gonna kind of even it out. We might get a little more for a little more collection.
In most cases, you're correct. In this particular situation, they actually lowered the total funding by what they took away in the RLE. So in this case, that's not correct.
So we could have had that 14
Yes.
million if they had not
Yes.
messed with that. But we're powerless to do that.
Can't
So
do
so
anything
again,
about
the
it.
premise is that the legislature decides what you'll get.
Exactly.
And if they had if they just kept the rollback or whatever it was, then,
If they
Yeah, we
hadn't
coulda had
taken
that.
us to the rollback and just left the rates flat, we could have earned up to that approximately.
well, that's thrilling news. Thank you, legislature. All right.
And if I may, Dan, I'm sorry, let me
Sure.
just stop you right there, because that is informational for your team, for your teachers, for the audience, everybody, because it's always brought up. Why didn't y'all just leave the millage as it was?
Yeah.
Richard used to say it when he was first on the team,
Mhm.
and it's not that it's under our control at all. So that is something that's very important to bring to this table, in my opinion.
And it's just, we're not here to be a political forum.
Right.
But just those that have been in this for a while, which is most of us, at least sitting at this table or a table somewhere in some county watching all this happen. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we were a growing national economy, we were a growing state economy, we had dollars coming in, and then through whatever factors, through whatever your politics are, the collections crashed, the economy crashed, the millage rates crashed, everything crashed. And some of us almost feel like it was self-inflicted political policy that made all this crash. And to hear you say, Well, the legislature's already given out whispers that next year's gonna be a 3% reduction. Well, everybody needs to know, the GDP of this country is still growing. The unemployment rate's going down. There's no reason that we should be sitting here right now looking for a fiscal crisis next year.
Right.
So keep that in mind as y'all go off and do something in November on Tuesday. All right,
Yes.
thank you. All right, well, there's your base student allocation, which is just the beginning of that. This is where they look at that fiscal year, that 4160. The base student allocation is the first number that goes into this long formula, and it went up $6, so the legislature's patting themselves on the back going historically high funding. They raised it $6. And just so everyone knows at home, this is and well, all of us, this is where we count on our local legislators, our local Brevard delegation, to go up there and use your influence to bring home that district cost differential. That's a piece of the funding formula. If you're right at 1, that means they're saying your county cost of living is roughly the state average. If you're a little higher than 1, then they're saying that because your cost of living is a little bit higher, help me out here. If you're higher than 1, then they're giving you some additional
Because if you're higher than 1, your
dollars.
cost of living is greater than the state average.
Right.
Therefore, you would normally get funded a little more.
Right. So basically, we want to be above 1. We don't want a proration, which is what that 99.43% is. Basically, the state says you'll get this much money. Whoops, we'll give you basically dollars per kid. By the time we're done doing the FTE, we get dollars per kid. We're going to get $99.43 per kid. And I'm sure if you figured that just staying at the 1 or the 1.09, there's a couple $100,000
There is more
probably
money
wrapped
there,
up right
yeah.
in there. And considering that we have the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate from our county, we might have expected a little more, but that was not a political statement. November 11th will be here soon, or whatever day that is. All right. November 8th, yes. No, please vote
I
before,
think one's
well
headed to
before
the
November
federal
11th, please
government.
vote.
One's up for reelection.
I've got Veterans Day on my, okay. Fascinating as always. All right, sorry.
I don't know if you were done with that.
That is, let's say, we're looking at what did I have to say about that? I don't know what I had. No, I'm sorry, yeah, keep going through. I think it was the next one I had some comments.
Unbalanced.
Fund balance. We'll go on to the next one because it was the next slide was about it. It seemed almost like you've had some run-ins with unions before. That
I've had discussions with unions.
that like to talk about fund balances.
Yes.
And we had, just so you know our history, Karen, you could have told her this. We don't make a huge stink over unreserved fund balances. I mean, just historically, we haven't. But now that you bring it up, I'll tell you what we have looked at before. We've looked at that contingency, that $19.9 million contingency that we saw got built up through the late 90s and into the early, whatever you call the last decade. It got built up to 19.8. It was a priority of the board that it make its way up to 3% of the whatever. And I think it was even 3.5%. And we noticed when everything crashed and that 19.9 stayed the same, it got as high as like 4.5% of the budget. We agreed, the unions always agreed that you can't just go into that, grab a ton of it, and give it out in raises.
Right.
But we have had discussions before about, a raise being sustained off into the future, and we talk about sustainability, and the district panics, and we can't ever do that, and the one impasse from years ago, not to use, we're doing some rear view mirror driving here, sorry, Jim.
That's
But
right.
just catch everyone up to speed. We were talking about $1 million difference off 3 years into the future, and we talked about, if 3 years comes, and we really get caught $1 million short because of these raises, you could always go in there, grab that. You're not going to bounce checks. And your 4.5% will just be down to 4 or 3.7 or something.
The only
like
thing
that.
is we have to refund that. We have to put it back in. It's not recurring.
Right.
19.9
Well, yeah.
is not recurring. So if we use $1 million, then we have to go find
If you're
some
committed
place
to
to
a
take it
recurring way,
away.
then that's right. But that's all real
And make sure
fuss.
that you noticed on this, and it's not coming up on the screen, contingency to total revenue, it's the second line from the bottom of
Right.
that. that 19 point, that's what 19.88 is to the total revenue, the bottom line, and it's actually shrinking.
We keep track of that, yeah. Well, that's because the
Which is
operating
not
budget is coming up.
good. Yeah.
Well, it's not bad either. The operating budget is increasing, so it's good that the operating budget is increasing. And it's still 3.8%, which is healthy. State wants it to be at 3, and I think they start sending nastygrams, what if you get around 2 or something? Or,
Well, nastygrams start when you drop below 3, they take over it too.
Oh.
They come in and do it for you if you
Good
can't
Lord.
get it out of the.
they don't know how to run the state, they certainly could run the school district. Where were we? Oh, about the unassigned fund balance.
Mhm.
That we've had our eyes on for years, but not made a huge fuss over it. Could you go back to the slide right before? Thank you. We look at the unassigned, you've got it in one line there. The assigned/unassigned fund balance, second thing down there.
Right.
And that's 45 million. I trust those are millions.
Yes, those are
No.
millions. It doesn't say that, but it is.
We'll-
It's in thousands, yeah.
We know that. And then for this year, it's projected at 47. So a question, doesn't have to be right now, I know that I'm probably giving you a research statement unless you have a spreadsheet right there, but the fund balance did increase by close to 2 million last year.
That is a projection
Right.
from, based off of May 31st. It is
Right.
not where it's going to be now, and I don't have that number with me. I didn't bring it because we're not completely closed and they're still doing entries. But that was a projection off of May financials.
Okay. That is something that I would like a breakdown. How do I do this politically correct? We're always optimistic if we were not to settle today and we go on. I would like a breakdown of just what's assigned and what's unassigned in that 47 million.
And our
Okay.
financial statements include the breakout on that, so we'll
Okay.
be happy.
Can you say you have books for me today, but we might?
Well, those are budget books today.
Mhm.
That's based on an estimate, what's in there. She starts with an estimate for this year. It'll be we're finishing closing this week. Beginning next month, they'll start working on our financial statements that go to the board on September 8th, I think it is. And that will have it, but as soon as it's available, I'll be happy to get it to you even prior to that number.
Well,
once we've given it
September
to you.
8th is the close of the year and the adoption of.
That's
next
when we
year's
adopt the budget,
Okay.
and that's when we take the AFR for approval.
Is it a Thursday next?
Yes,
You always do that on
that's the
Thursdays?
final public
Okay.
hearing, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, we
So-
can make that, that's always readily available to you, and if you
Okay.
wanted to look at last year's, there's a whole footnote in the comprehensive annual financial report that explains the makeup of those numbers.
Okay. Well, whenever that is available,
Okay,
we're here, unless we have a contract today. Thank
all
you.
right, you're welcome.
Thank you all.
Anybody else have anything else?
If that machine moves, then we can see each other.
We-
Penny, what's the date of the special board meeting?
For,
There's probably budget meeting?
the first one is tomorrow
It's
night.
tomorrow.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
the
night.
final one is September 8th, and we'll
Okay.
have the rest
Just
of
to make
it.
sure I have it right.
Yeah, I guess you do need me to unhook this before you can move it. There you go,
That
sir.
would be disastrous.
Don't-
We'd have to pull some money out of the fund balance to get you a new computer.
You better be able to put it back.
Okay, the statement of the budget for gravity.
All right, Dan, we're gonna come across the table with,
Coming across the table.
Coming across the table. Coming across the table, I'll fly over there.
Coming at us.
Oh, okay. I was trying to
Hey, before you go, Dan, I'm gonna go ahead and come across the table with,
Why don't you get one?
everything.
Let's move it on. Well, I'm thinking maybe we just do the money first, just keep it focused.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Just suggest.
We'll keep that.
Just
We'll-
suggest, I mean, it's your proposal, you can hand it out any way you want, but
I was just trying to say some.
I can guarantee I won't be paying
Yeah,
attention to your
let's
money
just
if you give me the language too, so.
You got anything to stretch?
Got a big stack here for 11 of us.
Okay, while that's being passed out, just some general comments. We've
Might want to give one to Richard.
Fun time. Nah, yeah.
been looking through what we could find. We've done some digging through the accounts. We found some things that were scheduled for carry forward we could pull back in. We found a little bit of this, that, and the other, and have been able to put a package together. This package is a two-part package. It's got a piece for 9, 10, 11-month team members that would provide for a 0.75% increase in their annual salary. 12-month team members, which I think you have just a microcosm of, would get, instead of a,
About 10.
yeah, I think there's about 10 that fit.
Okay.
Instead of getting an actual annual salary increase, we would give them 6 additional days off at the winter break. They currently get 4 holidays. They would get an additional 6 days without a change in their pay. So it would be 10 consecutive work days off. Their annual salary would remain the same. Their number of work days decrease from 261 to 255.
They have 10 days.
And their daily rate of pay.
No, not if they're 12-month.
No.
12-month, do not get 2 weeks, do not get that.
You have a few 12-month, you have.
You don't have a lot. I
You don't have a
think
lot.
it's about 10.
Yeah.
And they
earn
work.
They don't earn vacation either.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got-
The advantages to all team members, one thing we've heard from various sources, the 9, 10, 11 don't get as much money, 12 complains they don't get the time off. Kind of diminishes that. We give 9, 10, 11 a little bit of money. The others get a little time off. It becomes kind of equalized. That 10 days at winter break, everyone gets. In the district, all offices would shut down. And it, on a for the 12-month employees, which I know you don't have a lot, it improves their work-life balance. About half of the group overall, now, the package, this is the same we presented to 1010. I'm looking at this as everyone, treating one team. About half of the number of 12-month employees in the district always took leave. So this provides those who have been taking leave a benefit. And you may not care about this because you don't have a big piece in it, but transparency, I'm going to share the whole thing with you. And allow those team members to spend time with their families. And it provides full 10 days with minimal to worry about, no work distractions. And it does provide for an effective increase in their daily rate, which is a benefit to them at the end of retirement when they go to cash in their accrued vacation leave, so they get it at a higher rate. That's our offer.
Well, that's the most discussion we've had on 12-month employees, I think, in my 10 years
Well,
on this team.
hey, you have very few.
You have very
So
few.
what
It's
you
a
need to
minimal
understand,
impact.
as Penny has said, transparency of this offer is that you need to understand where we are viewing and where we're moving with our financial package with all employees here at BPS. So bottom line is this, teachers would be receiving, most of your membership would be receiving, or the offer would be a 0.75% increase in annual salary.
I think it's also important, and more important for them is those 12-month teachers would still be eligible for their pay for performance even
Yes.
with this. So pay for performance would still be part of what they would receive, just not 0.75, the additional days off.
So your principals then would be in a pay freeze.
Yes, they would.
Is there 12? Not, I hope I didn't say that with any connotation, but
No,
that's what you're saying, your
principals,
would be in it.
principals, yeah, would be 6 additional days off. They
Well,
could all take.
Principals are coming over to this
They
side.
could join, we're now accepting membership from principals. No,
That's so frustrating.
And I will say, I mean, never mind.
okay,
don't know
I
where
need to
was
thoroughly
going.
understand this before I give you an answer, so let's make sure, so you're gonna get some questions, you're gonna be, okay, because all of a sudden you're talking about pay for performance and whatnot and this not. Point, okay, this is less than 1%, this is 3/4 of 1%.
Yes, it is.
And then, but then you also talked about pay for, I mean, is this all together? We have to
Yes.
figure out, so we're,
Yes,
so,
we have to
because
figure
last year
out-
we had a piece that was COLA, we had a piece that was if you're
Well,
effective. a
we
piece that-
negotiated that, remember, we've got to talk about, we have to, by statutory language, we have to honor pay for performance.
Right, so
Yeah.
the suggestion is that this point, the 0.7, we could somehow do some math and figure out what those dollars are, and then we have those dollars, and we figure out how to do it between the COLA and the this and the that and that.
That is if
This
you want to
not-
offer a COLA.
Okay, and you all understand, and you're saying this obviously with a straight face, I'm looking for a camera somewhere, oh, there is a camera, but this is an offer, this is our average pay in this county is about 47,000, and so 3/4 of 1% of that is under $400. So that's a proposal for a raise this year, it's an average of a little under $400. Okay. So I think I'm understanding the proposal. I don't think we're ready to settle.
Well,
Yeah,
we
let me say,
caucused.
let me
You
say,
haven't even caucused.
let me say that more formally, we're not ready to settle.
I understand.
Jim. Correct, we have not
We
caucused.
got to begin somewhere.
Correct, for purposes of discussing finances and beginning somewhere, we met those objectives. We were not settling on that. I'm looking at myself. Nobody is against me not settling, okay. Jim, we're gonna make something positive out of this. As best we can. All right? Penny, I liked it that you began the whole presentation. Forgive me for calling you Penny, I'm afraid to
You're
try to say your
welcome to
last
call me
name because I
Penny.
haven't seen Jim get it right yet.
You're welcome to call me
Um, I appreciate the presentation and the beginning where you said this is all about transparency. And I'm going to have a little conversation here where I want you to know this is not a personal insult at you. You seem to take it well. Karen, this is not an attack on you. I know in the past I haven't always had the best behavior and I get mad at people, and I think for a whole bargaining session I was just saying something, I was naming your title over there, and you were like, what are you talking about? No, this is nothing. These are, y'all are good people doing good work over here and accurate numbers, I'm sure. But here's, we're gonna have to go to the next stage of openness and honesty to get this contract settled. And it's probably not gonna happen today because, as has been stated, to get the true picture of what happened last year, the book hasn't closed on last year yet. So we're gonna have to wait at, maybe around that early September that we can really see what happened. All right? Now I'm catching up. Some people have been here. Jim, you're gonna hear the same old speech you've heard before. Budgeting is rightfully and should be a conservative process. I don't mean that in a political sense. But as far as how much money do we have to put in this pot of money to make sure that we have enough to cover payroll, you have to be conservative in that sense, that you don't want to you can't get caught short. You can't just overpromise, oh, heck, give 20 million in raises and whoops, you get caught short with that. For years I've noticed that that number rightfully is conservative enough that it's over budgeted, which is what should happen. Should be over, you can't be under budgeted. And when there's more money put into that salary pot through a raise, okay, there's always money left over. And I don't have access to the books, to the computers, to the everything, to actually find it in real time in payroll and say, aha, there it is. I'm working with the Russians, but they haven't hacked in yet. So I don't have access to your computer system. But I can find the evidence of it, I can find the shadows of it. And in the past, when we've had these discussions, when this union has brought this argument forward, that you gotta have some money there somewhere. Somewhere we believe that some money that was allocated wasn't spent, some money that was budgeted, was over budget, wasn't spent. It's not out of evilness, and maybe my tone has made it sound like it's an accusation, probably because it's been an accusation. But there's money that we know should be there. And so, Jim, I'm gonna pass across the table, this isn't a counter offer, but this is what evidence I have to offer that we believe strongly there will be money coming out of last year's budget that we can use. And we'll have further discussion about whether this is recurring or non-recurring. Again, I fully expect y'all might be a little conservative about whether it's recurring or non-recurring. We may argue that it's recurring, you may argue it's non-recurring, and we'll go back and forth. But we feel very strongly that there is money should be coming out of this. So I'm going to kind of be 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8. Would you get that? Here's actually Andrew for sure. Jim, do you remember this sheet of paper from last year? Hold on, let me get it up and wave it at you. Remember that sheet of paper? Jim?
Yes.
Do you remember the sheet of paper from last year?
Yes.
You and I signed off on it October 6th. And you can see right here where I left it on a part of my desk that had a roof leak, and that's why it's all discolored down here. But these were remember this, Karen? The pink sheets we signed off on?
Yes.
And that was your commitment to the raises for last year.
Right?
Right, October 6th, right? That was a commitment to the raises from last year. Now, this top chart, you can see it says from the October 6th, 2015 offer, and that's what we signed off on. All right? Where you see bold on that chart, that's just where I took numbers exactly from here. Okay? I took them right from here, they're on the here. So if you don't have this sheet, I didn't tell you to bring the sheet from last year, but that sheet from here. All right. There was a line 5 on that sheet. We signed out for a COLA for $650, and your numbers were that would be $3 million. Well, you can see the number there. I'm not going to read all the numbers. If we just divide those two numbers, because fringe was its own line, okay, so we don't have to worry about the 15% fringe. If we take those numbers, just divide them, the dollars you put across the table for COLA would have covered 5,155 teachers. All right? Now, traditional history of art, again, makes sense. It's conservative. This is not an accusation. This is not, I'm saying that you're evil. But when you write your budget, we've been told you take your high point of payroll from the year before, which is May. So I have, thank you, Karen, a spreadsheet with May payroll. And so everyone knows it doesn't have any names on it. It's got all the teachers listed out without any names. It's got their base pay and the pay for performance on there. If they were new, it just has the COLA worked in and the salary adjustment we negotiated last year. All right? So last year, when you put the $3.3 million into COLA, that was for 5,155 teachers. The sheet I asked for at the end of the year had 4,892 teachers on it. All right? Then I went back to the budget book just to see, have I really lost that sheet of paper? Hold on, John. I took off the paper clip. And it's gone. I went back to the budget book because I said, well, how many teachers did we really plan for? And from the adopted budget book, we planned for 4,819 teachers. So, and that included teachers, guidance, media, and psychologists. So that should have been everyone in our unit. When I asked for the payroll, I said, please give me everyone, give me everybody. I don't want to, because we've had this before where I say, you only spent this much, and then it's, well, did you include adult ed? Did you include media specialists? Well, I asked for payroll for everybody. Seemed like I had payroll for everybody. it matched the number that I grabbed from the DOE report, at least pretty darn close. So just by virtue that our high point of last year being May payroll, given that hopefully that's the high point, it traditionally is, if we had 4,892 teachers, so that means we didn't give COLA to all those 5,100, well, there's a savings of 170,000 that hopefully would shake out. Now, before I go on, just side trip again, sorry about the rearview mirror, but I've been told, hey, going way back in the past, nobody here, nobody currently on staff or salary, but I've been pulled into a room before, Dan, you're out there spouting all about we conservatively budget and there's a savings, and workforce year over year, we save some money and, you know, all that, so some money shakes out of the budget. And every time you say that, like, you know, it's dangerous, someone might believe you. And it was explained to me, well, yes, it does happen. But it doesn't always sit until the end of the year. Sometimes as you run payroll, you realize that there's a savings that could be captured, so there's transfers during the year. So sometimes money gets moved around. None of this is evil. It's unfair. I mean, it's just good budgeting. It's just how you pay the bills. But at the end of the year, if we look at it, well, there was a piece of paper here that we said, here's what y'all could commit to. And these are observations that maybe it didn't happen. All right? Or fully happen. All right, then we have teachers that were effective. They get 75% by law. Penny, we followed the law pretty close on this. We just read the thing. It said up to 75% if you're effective of the full raise, so they got it. And based on the dollars set aside and the dollars that were increased, we had budgeted for 1,454 teachers getting that 75% raise. Looking at payroll, we had 1,260. It was a 14,000 line spreadsheet, a lot of fun. So there's a say, again, you multiply the 1,260 times the 1,312, how much was really spent, subtracted from the 1.9 million. There's a savings that could be captured. Then we look at highly effective. You notice I have that line in bold. Some of those got the extra dollar, went to 1,751, some got this, so I had to splice that out. And we had 2906 actually got the 1,750, 227 got the 1,751. Again, there's a savings of 330,000. Then we have the placement on this, that's 736. Now, budgeted, there's a loss right here. And the loss, I think, tells, again, we're looking at shadows of what could be going on. There were 335 budgeted to just get the 736, and that's it. So those of you people new to the district, you're new, welcome to Brevard, that's all you can't get paid for performance, you weren't here last year, right? The actual number of teachers, that's all they got, was 663. So what's that tell us? That tells us we gave out less highly effective than we thought. We gave out less effective than we thought. But we had more new folks than we thought. All right? So just keep that in mind for what's coming up. We've had out less effective, less highly effective, fewer effective, fewer language people. Anyway, but then more just new hires. All right? Anyway, adding up the savings on that, we find about $500,000. We figure in fringe, and we get close to $600,000 that was pledged, you know, dollars set aside, and maybe that's going to fall out. All right, now, going to the next box. These are some numbers that come from the DOE. And these, to me, are interesting because we're always trying to capture, depending on, we're talking, looking at a thing, FTE, you get a couple more kids, you hire a couple more teachers, so, and then I say, yeah, a couple more teachers, but they send you money for a couple more teachers, and, you know, how do you really grab
Maybe.
what's the, yeah, hopefully they do, but how do you really grab, you know, what's going on with payroll, especially when it changes probably week to week, probably every time you run it, you probably have a different number of teachers, right? So, June of 2015, this is the average number, last summer, average pay, 46,266. DOE gets that number from somewhere, they get it from us. In April, the average pay, 47,364. Yay, that's an increase. Our average pay went up $1,098. That's good, we should celebrate that, right? That's an average raise of almost 2.4%. But we settled on 5.1%. So if we have a workforce and we say you're getting an average of 5.1%, the average pay should have gone up 5.1%. But here's what happens. Here's my theory. Been told in certain terms that there's something to this theory. You start with the year before in May. You budget that number for the fall, all right? And then you give the fall a raise, and you don't end up spending all the money you thought you would, because that fall workforce is cheaper than your workforce from the spring. All right, now how much cheaper? How many dollars is it? Is it really happening? Well, there's evidence of it here in that the district didn't spend the full 5.1%. All right, the average pay went up 2.4%, which means base pay must have fallen just a touch, and then all the raises kick in. Y'all spent all the money on the raises. I mean, minus the 600,000, that's not bad. You were gonna spend 11 million, so you spent a lot on raises, there's no accusation there. But somewhere from May through the summer, following fall, the workforce got cheaper, and then you dumped raises on it, which, thank you, we want the raises. Now, the next line's kind of an admission on me. You all said 5.1% raise, that's what we celebrate, but a big piece, or a piece, not a huge piece, but a piece of that 5.1% was the supplements. We have the Title I schools and the critical shortage, and we increased coaching supplements and all kinds of things. So I went to this sheet right here and I subtracted that out. So really, the salary enhancements, the true base pay, was 4.8%. And I think that's fair for you guys, it's fair for the discussion, because in May, or excuse me, in April, when the DOE is grabbing average salary, y'all hadn't paid out the May supplements. So it wouldn't be fair if I, use it. So anyway, so we're counting on a 4.8% increase. It went up 2.4%. Going to that top number, see that 46,266? If that had gone up, that 4.8%, then our average pay reported to Tallahassee would have been 48,487. All right? It didn't make it that high. It fell short by $1,100. Now, what is $1,100 over that, your number, 4892 teachers? Well, that's 5.5 million. With fringe, that's 6.3 million. Now, is that me making the grand accusation that you're hiding something? No, that's not me. Karen, you've got it in that bag, right? No, that's not me saying you got 6.3. But that's evidence that from May of one year to the following fall, y'all did good conservative budgeting, as you should. You planned for the same workforce to come back. You gave them raises, but not all of that money was expended. I have no expectation that July 27th you have exact numbers. You could, that would be fair. But I do think that if we wait, if you look into what I'm asking, you'll be able to find some of that in the budget books. All right.
Can I talk about some of this?
Well, sure. Well, just as a final thought on that, this discussion I've had, maybe in the presentation, the way it's laid out in the little charts here, I mean, every year this discussion is a little different. All right. It doesn't get any more exciting, I'm sorry, but it's a little different every year. But it's been met with the district and the board with everything from Dan's crazy to hostility. Maybe because I presented with y'all crazy all the way up through hostility. But there's a lot of change in leaders right now in the county, including two right in front of me, which is encouraging. And Jim, you're relatively new to that, and we're off to a good start, I think, in communicating. We have change in the top, and we've changed in the school board. So I'm hoping that we have a fresh start, a commitment to transparency, that you'll take the challenge of going back and looking into this.
Oh, and I will.
And
Just-
saying,
I'd
where
just like
could
to give a
some of
couple
this be?
thoughts that
Yeah.
come to my mind.
Of course.
And more so from the bottom block.
Mhm.
And the average teacher salaries, the state gets those from the combination of our cost report. And part of what's going to drive the lower number there are gonna be leaves, and substitutes. So, I've just recently, for this year, been having to approve schools who have long-term absences from teachers who have paid tens of thousands of dollars for substitutes. That money comes from this. It's, we make an estimate as to what we think it will be. It does fluctuate from year to year. If we have a teacher who's out on long-term leave, then part of that, their leftover salary goes to pay for their substitute. So that's the first thing I can see that's going to have some impact on that. You know, the
Which would
second,
be a recurring situation. I'm sorry to cut you off, but every year we've
it
got,
can be recurring.
they're scrambling for, well, I mean, at least it's, right, I mean, everyone's leave is different, but every year there's a matter of, well, the sub-budget, it could overrun, it could not overrun, a leave could start or stop at
And
the
it
right
is,
time.
which is, again, it is a recurring thing, and again, that's something that would happen every year when we find that the sub-budget's going over, and a lot of times driven by leaves, that leftover salary money, because we're paying for subs for staff who aren't here, gets used to pay for those subs. So I'm not denying that it recurs.
Right, okay.
The level of substitutes
I'm sorry, I took that wrong,
varies.
right, you were getting, right.
Varies from year to year. No, I'm not, but one year it may be here, and the next year it may go here, and then it may go here, and it varies. It's not a flat, but we know that there are going to be long-term lapses, and we do go back and pick up some of the salary money to pay for those. So that's one thing that comes in. Again, teacher turnover, it does play a role, retirements versus new hires. But it's not as easy to say every retiree who is the highest gets replaced by a brand new at the lowest. Depending on experience, you know, I personally have a friend who just left Polk last year with 12 years at Polk and moved to Osceola as a new teacher. So she didn't come in at the bottom rung, she's going to come in somewhere in the middle. That will affect the average teacher salary. So those are two just off the top of my head. I'd be happy, you know, to look into this. Transparency is important to me, and I invite anyone who wants to come in and rumble through our books. I'd be happy to do that. I'll take this, we'll take a look at it, and see where, you know, what it is, how we think it actually reflects in our books.
Right. Well, thank you. And I'll admit, I wherever this money goes, when it's put into a salary, I keep saying salary pot, when it gets put into that salary allocation there, and I come through and say, hey, then I'll get spent on salary. Well, I know it got spent on something, and I can guess it was something good. I was guessing it's not, you know, you didn't just build a golf course somewhere. I mean, I'm sure you did something good with it.
No, we.
But yet at the same time, I mean, these are our dollars. And we could, I mean,
And see, I guess, philosophy, I look at it different. I don't look at it, when I offer a percentage, I'm offering a percentage increase to the employees. I'm not saying that's equal to X dollars. It will always be equal to X dollars. It's percent of the employment base, and that employment base changes every day. So I'm not coming in and going, you know, this percent is equal to X, and you're getting every penny of X in one way or the other. We're offering, you know, we in my mind, we offer a percentage increase. At the current time, it may be around X, but yeah, I expect that number to fluctuate. Some days it's going to be higher than X, and some days it's going to be lower than X.
okay.
Okay, that's my
I will-
philosophy.
Well, we've opened up and told each other what's on our minds. Jim, like I said, I've given y'all some homework, and there was even an offer to come through and look at some books, so I may take you up on that. And I've asked for unassigned fund balance, and very curious about these salary dollars. I don't know if you're shocked, Jim, when I say we're not going to be able to settle on the. I just, you know, I can't go back. I can't get teachers excited about 3/4 of 1%.
Gee, Dan, come on, I thought you'd just go, yeah, that's great, let's do it.
I can get teachers excited about me at
I'm
the
not
bottom of
shocked.
the canal. It's
Like I
so-
say, you know, Dan, even though look, we've been doing this now, we've been doing this a while. I know that you guys want to go back, discuss it, and I've been doing this like you all will count for, and that's only fair. I want to briefly talk a little bit about insurance. Look, I'm not Mark Langdorf, and I want you to know that what I know about insurance could fit at the top of this pen, but I'm going to do my very best because he's the authority. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think you sit on the advisory board for
Just give your
insurance.
report, I'll fill in blanks for
But I
you.
think for our people who are in the audience and for your team members who may or may not know this, this is what I like to at least offer up because that's part of our financial presentation. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, but it may be to our audience members and to teachers who may be returning or employees who may be returning, that Mark's plan is to open the first of our public schools wellness clinic sometime at the end of October, no later than the beginning of that first week or second week in November. What that is going to offer, and then I should go on to say that his plan is to offer, or not to offer, but to open 2 more clinics by the end of the fiscal year. If things go as they should, he'll open his first clinic in October. 3 months after that, we'll open his second clinic. And then after that, 3 months after that, it would be our 3rd clinic. So by the end of the fiscal year, June 30, we will have a clinic in the semi-north, central, and south areas, which all employees will be able to come in and make appointments. This should save revenue in as far as our benefits and insurance goes, because these wellness clinics will be our clinics. In other words, we will then establish and set up obviously with a consultant, a firm that will manage these clinics, but we have the authority to be able to set the times that these doctors will be able to take patients. Our co-pays will, I believe, be 0. And I want you to know that if there are drugs that are going to be administered as far as prescriptions that are non-generic in nature, they will also be free to our employees. So what I want, you're shaking your head. Generic, that's what I'm saying, generic. The generic brand will be free to our employees. Right now, the financial forecast for insurance is that there'll be no increased cost passed on to our employees. So right now, we are sitting well within what we need to do with our insurance fund balance. I believe, and I may be wrong here, so I'm going to throw out a number, and if Dan, since you sit on the committee, I'm wrong. I believe that right now, we have a contingency fund there of about $12.7 million, right?
Not sure.
I think that's what I've heard, that, in other words, and that's what's required that we're supposed to have. So as Mark moves through this year, we're going to see employees hopefully be able to take advantage of these clinics. Think about this, because we set the hours. I'm going to just toss out Vanessa usually as an example. If Vanessa needs to set an appointment before school, after school, or maybe for your children, we're going to be able to control those hours so that you'll get those appointments, and hopefully they'll be at a convenient time for you. And so I wanted you just to be able to report this, like I say, to those folks who listen to this. This has been a long time coming, but the most important thing is I know that usually when we get to the table, we're usually talking about insurance and how the cost of insurance is taking away from our employment salary dollars. This year it's good news, and there's going to be no adjustment, and we're going to be able to really be able to offer, I think, a little bit more than what we've offered in the past, with just the benefit of being able to open up these wellness clinics. So that's all I'd like to ask. If you have a few questions, I'll try to entertain them. I'm not, like I say, Mark Langdorf, but I've heard his presentation at least a couple of times now to the board and to the our other union, and I'll try to do as best I can by answering them.
Do you have locations yet?
This is what I've been told by Mark. Yes and no. I'm going to say it like that. We were hoping to open the first clinic here on the property of ESF. However, in wanting to do that, we found out that Vieira Company has rules against modular structures being built in the community. So Dane Theodore and Mark Langdorf and the Vieira Company met, and I think they met last week, to see if there would be a provision that would be, would allow that to occur. From according to Mark, they haven't given him a definitive answer, but they were positively receptive to the idea that yes, it would be a modular complex, but under the ways in which we would build that, and maybe the way we tie it into the color code and the codes that Vieira has, that they have a standard for this community, that they might be able to work with us on that. I know that he has looked at, and I don't want to go publicly with this, but I do know that he has a
You have a camera
school
account.
in Titusville.
Jackson.
I'm not gonna
We
say
have a
anything.
calendar before you go public.
I'm not going public, I'm not naming the school,
Electronic
but I
device
want you to know
behind
in Titusville, we do have a campus that does have property in which we would be able to put one of the clinics on. And then there is one in the south in which we're working eager. Which one will open first? Will it be the Titusville? Will it be the ESF complex? Will it be the Melbourne complex? I don't know. But I know that in November, you're going to have at least one, and then after that, 3 months after that, they'll have a.
Jim, is the district preparing any information about these to the employees? Because I'm sure with everything new, there's always some kind of fear and question. And I'd like to see the district be proactive in getting that information out and getting people excited about these. So is there any kind of campaign that you know of?
I'm not Mark, and I'm almost certain the way Mark operates, he would have, information that would go out to employees. All I can say is this, so that, I think that I think that this is going to be incumbent on BFT, Local 1010, and on the board to be able to get the message out. There may be those people out there who say, I'm not going to use these wellness facilities because Big Brother's watching, and of course, I'm fearful of that. I hope in time, because of the way in which all three of us work together, that will overcome those obstacles, because I do know that there are 2 or 3 other districts, and I've heard Mark talk about this, that was the #1 fear when they first introduced clinics, wellness clinics into their workforce. But over time, that was completely eliminated because folks found out that really was a cost savings, and it was so much more convenient.
If I can speak to
Yeah.
that, because where I came from, they opened their first clinic almost 4 years ago, and opened their second clinic last year. And initially it was, you're gonna force me, I can't, see it. Over the 3 years, it became so popular. We had to hire additional doctors, people were going, because once they went and tried it, it was a very nice facility. People were very good, we made sure we had good people in there, and they realized the savings. Nobody was forcing them, they went. One of the biggest places we saw savings were not those of us like myself, I go to the doctor all the time, but the people who don't. And there were several people who finally took advantage of this because it was free, provided them the ability to get some testing done and stuff, that we were able to actually save in long-term claims expenses. And a couple of these people were cancer issues that we were able to catch it early. In the end, when they opened the second clinic, and these were much larger clinics than the 3 that we're talking about here, because Polk's about a third larger than we are. They had actually even opened it up to 100% of the employees, whether they took the insurance or not, because the benefit to even a teacher who has their spouse's insurance to be able to run down when they're not feeling good, get the medicines and go on. It's been very successful in Polk, and we saw a huge decrease over the first 3 years. The last 3 of the first 4 years, about a $3 million reduction in claims liability that we totally attribute to that clinic and getting people to the doctor because they weren't having to make the payments.
Anthony, to answer your question, I think that any time you open something like this up, we would need to work on a campaign in which we were able to answer questions, inform our workforce, and this is the way. Now, I'm not Mark Langdorf, this is his baby, but Mark and I now are in the same department. We do work for the same boss. sits right next to me. And I'm certain that we would work together, and hopefully you would be a part of that.
Yes, I was just gonna.
And our other union with how we would go and unveil an information campaign to our employees. Why would we keep BFT from not helping us with that? We want your assistance. So when we get there, I think that's the hurdle, not a hurdle. I think that's what we'll be presented with.
I'll just add to that, Jim. When we were screening these companies, it's actually the company's job to
Okay.
promote the clinic, and that's part of their package, part of their delivery and what they do.
Is to educate
Because
the
they
workforce.
know, and this is the biggest challenge, and there are people who have a core belief. There's a core group of people who have a core belief, and it's very tough changing that belief, that we're just opening a clinic just to trick you into going in there so the boss can start making employment decisions based on your cholesterol number. And that's absolutely not what's going on.
Right.
But every company came in, they said, yes, we know, everywhere we go, we have to deal with that. So it will not be a BPS flyer. You know, don't forget to go to the doctor, and just picture Dr. Blackburn. That's not what it'll be. It'll be this company, Marathon, will be producing all the materials about it opening. And then, you know, they'll go through BFT, it'll go in the mailboxes and everything. But they go out, they visit the schools, they host the meetings after school, they bring out the donuts and the drinks and the everything. And they talk about the clinic, and they promote it, the community, grand opening, all that stuff, the balloons and the pigeons and whatever they have to do. And that way, it's not so much BPS and BFT and all that stuff, it's them. We picked that, they're gonna do great. I mean, every company comes in, and of course, you sit through these marketing presentations and they all seem so great. What's at this company's side, you know, and they all have their client base, and they'll tell you how wonderful it is back with all their clients. What's at this company apart is they are so good at going in and taking over. When another company fails, they go in and they just clean up the mess, and then they run the clinic
They run the show.
profitably. So we said, well, let's just get them to begin with.
And I think,
so
Anthony, you
they're
got
really
your
good.
question. Dan's got it right there, then, you know, that makes sense. It sounds to me if these companies have a marketing campaign that is successful and maybe been something that's proven over time to win employees over, then we're just gonna run with that.
They make the flyers. When you go online to schedule your appointment, you're using that company.
And there will not be biometrics on the flyer.
You never know, Vicki. You don't liking those biometrics?
You never know what they'll do.
What's up, Debbie?
Deb, are they gonna be staffed with doctors or physician's assistants or a combination?
They're gonna be a combination of both. Mark did tell me they would be doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, nurse physicians,
The PAs and the
Yeah.
RNs.
vicious. Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah, say that 5 times. Yes, all of those people.
Physicians, physicians
Yes,
assistants,
they
and
will
RNs.
all be there.
I just, like, the minute clinics are mostly just PAs, so you
Right.
have issues there, but it'd be
Yes.
good if they know that you're gonna see a doctor.
I can't imagine that we wouldn't be lining up to go to them if it's, especially for sinus, you know, just.
Well, with the HIPAA laws, they can't tell.
They can't
Well,
share.
that's true.
They won't be
But
sharing.
Dan is absolutely correct. There will be
You got a
those
group of
who
people.
actually not believe
There
that
will
we
be
can do
people
that.
that won't.
But over
Oh,
time,
God,
look,
yes.
I think with anything, you know, this is like a snowball. You push it and it starts gaining momentum, and before you know it, hopefully, as we've been looking at other districts, 4 or 5 years from now, we'll have 5 or 6 of these clinics everywhere. And people say, holy cow, I can't believe we didn't have this when, you know.
I can tell you, I'm looking forward to it. I go on our insurance October 1st, and I can't wait to.
I think Indian River has it, and there's
Yeah.
a teacher that I spoke to that was with Indian River, their teachers association, and she's now gonna be teaching in Brevard for us, so we stole a good one. But she said, she asked me for recommendations for doctors, because she didn't know who to go to, because she always used their clinics, so.
What was her feeling about what?
She likes the clinics. The one thing she said she didn't like was that the only way she could make an appointment was online. And so if she, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes she liked to pick up that phone and
I don't
actually
know
talk
how
to
Marathon
someone.
makes their appointments, maybe Dan does, I don't know all that.
I haven't been there yet.
I think online.
But I can't wait to
I think
break
it's
up a
better.
leg or sprain something, it's gonna be great.
Personally, I like the online, then I can go see what something's
Yeah.
available, instead of waiting on someone going,
Well, I
well,
think she
I
said
can
the
get you
only
in
way
at
you could
2.
do it was online, so then she said you know, every once in a while you just wanna get up.
Well, sometimes online's not available.
I know the
Right.
week before it opens, I'll be
Right.
playing in the rain and not taking vitamins, I can't wait.
I never want to talk to a
I
person.
think Sandy had a question.
Well, I don't know, I'm just thinking, I think it's a really great idea. But I also wonder, is it gonna be one of those things that as the next couple of years go on and we do talk about raises, it's gonna be, well, now remember, nobody's having to pay that 50, you know, I mean, do we, hopefully we'd never see that as coming back saying, well, we didn't raise your insurance and you get to go free to the clinics. I just hope that it doesn't come back and bite us in the butt about that. Just
Okay.
throwing that out there.
I have some
Good point.
handouts for you.
We'll take them now, sir.
They're FYIs, well, I'll give you the FYIs, then I'll give you the language, I'll go in order, so. This is the budget books.
Okay.
There's only a copy for Dan. We don't have budget books for everyone else. Now, in this, I have copies for the entire team. This memo actually went out by Beth Betty today, and before I discuss it, I'll let you all look at it. So if we can go across the table with that. While you're really building this.
I'll meet you in the middle. Before we get here. Here, sir. Budget books. Am I the only one that gets excited to see a budget book?
Yeah, you would.
Jim, you're gonna be way too many.
I got my budget books. Okay, the budget books are the budget books.
We got together.
So that's for Dan's information and Richard's information. The other is something that actually came out today, and I just threw it in my packet of things that I would deliver to you all. This memo went out from Beth Betty's office because she's tasked with this information, and she gave it to the principals. It speaks to House Bill 729. This bill passed in the legislature, and it now reshapes, and I don't think it's going to affect us too much because when I met with this committee, we were doing a pretty good job of handling this, but I do know that BFT, I'm just giving it as an information because that way if teachers were to roll in, Dan on the first day of school, and principals were presenting House Bill 7029, I've given you a heads up of at least how we're going to handle it. It's pretty straightforward, and as you can see, after you've read the verbiage on this memo, as you get through the bullets of how we're going to work through this process, and you know, this is about the parent that comes in and says, I don't want Vanessa Skipper as a English teacher at Cocoa High School, or I request another teacher. It's now going to provide our administrators with the responsibility that they have to meet the letter of the law. At the same time, it would include you in on that. You can see the steps that they would have to take. Look, guys, when we sat down and started looking at what we might have to do to be able to, like I said, meet the letter of the law, we're already pretty much doing this on campuses. So anyway, it's a heads up.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, there's something important happening on November 8th. I'd like to remind everyone. If you could somehow spread the word, visit the clinic on your way to voting.
Yeah, you know, after I got done reading this, I thought, talk about micromanaging, you know, at the local level. This is one of them. But anyway, this is where we are. I've got a smile on my face, and I think we're going to get through it, and we're going to be okay. But I want you to know we're going to include the teacher in on it. You get to at least sit in on a conference and get to hear why Vanessa Skipper's not a great English teacher, and why I would like to have somebody else.
Jim will be taking our voucher to go to which state? We'll have to
None of the southern ones.
Okay.
go. Yes, sir. What you got for language?
All right, it's 3 o'clock. Do anyone need a break? We have another hour.
Yeah,
Does
your
anyone
team's
need-
saying yes. Yeah, we'll
Do we
say,
need
we'll take a break.
Okay, can we have a restroom break for
Thank you,
5
Ms.
minutes? We'll
Moore.
come back and we'll start in on language. 5-minute
you,
break.
Chris.
Okay.
10-minute break?
10-minute break.
10-minute break.
10-minute break.
That's the, hey, we have a
We're
conference.
not caucusing, we're gonna go use the restroom and we're gonna come back. All right, how's that?
It's ready.
Carol's-
She's just adding up a few numbers here, and it'll be ready.
All right,
They're providing every teacher
roll.
a case today, Dr.
and here's our,
Oh, you want ours? Do you want ours while I'm giving it to you?
yeah.
Do we all have a copy of,
I don't.
oh. Well, you're on the
I should, thank you very much.
Oh, wait, that was all.
I have
Let's do
one.
that one.
Yeah, you didn't pass it, so should I do all of
Hold on, I screwed up something. There it is.
Do you have,
You don't have a copy?
yeah, you didn't give it to anyone.
We're the stuff.
I did give them to this team.
You
Does this
gave me
team have
Gave me one.
our proposal?
No,
Yes,
it's-
here we go, here you go.
So all right, there we
I'll give you this, I'll give you that, it's a fair exchange. Whoa, y'all put some work into this right here, this is like pages and pages and stapled.
Oh, yeah, Casey talking about this.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, this is,
All right, Dan, thank you. 1, 2,
If you don't have enough, it's because I didn't give you enough. That sounded profound. Let me know if you need more, we'll dig them out.
that's down there. Okay, Chuck, kind of recap before we get into your language is.
Correct, we're settled on a 6% raise, and now we have to do that.
Yeah.
He said that, not me. All
I
right.
fell out of my chair.
Yeah. Look, I know that when, the last time we bargained was April 18th. Okay?
Yes, sir.
We had come across the table with some counter material, language, to counter some of the language that you all had given us. I passed across the table, just as a refresher, just to keep everybody moving along where we were with our counters. And I see that today you all provided us with counters from that proposal. So just so that we're all on the same page, you have what we gave out 2 months ago, maybe it was 3 months
Mhm.
ago. Now we've got what you've given out, so let's take a look. And I guess, Dan, let me take a look at what you've got. And,
We could probably go through this
yeah,
together, I mean, it's like.
That's what I'm saying. We'll work off
We'll
those
work off your
sheets.
document,
there you go.
and, I mean, I'll let you introduce your piece here, you tell us what you got, and I'll point to you.
Okay, Article 6, General Conditions of Employment, Section C. You see at the very top, lines 1, let's just say lines 1 through 7.
Hold on,
How's that? It might be easier for me just to do lines.
I want to get all this, man, Jim on a mess. All right. And lost,
Have you lost my language already?
no. I had notes to myself here. I got 40 pages of crap. All right.
It's bad when you lose, it's bad when you lose your own notes.
We love him, Mom.
Did you get John Hayes in here to show me how to do this? All right.
I get you a 3-ring binder. Okay, there it is. Okay, Union had asked us,
I'm ready, sir.
you had said, hey, teacher shall be able to see his or her comp time record electronically. And I have board discussion for today in that I talked to Art Bitton. He is the, Art Bitton, he is the guy that would really be able to set this up and
Art?
allow us, Art, yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that would be who would, that's our go-to person for being able to help us and assist us with, can we do something like this request? The bottom line is, no, we can't do it at this time. We're not opposed to not doing it, though. I know Vanessa had asked, and I think you gave a good passionate reasoning of why.
To do it.
We're not opposed to doing it, just that we can't do it today, this year. What we'd like to do, and what Carol has asked us to do for the future is, we're looking at some software that might allow us to move in a different direction than what we currently have with the tools that we have at disposal to our schools. And, so I'm saying right now, we would love to go electronically, just that we just don't have the software to be able to do that. Can we do it in AS400? Well, we looked at that. I'm going to maybe defer to my secretary, but I'm going to tell you because she knows the ins and outs with comp time, because that's what secretaries do. There is a way in which secretaries at the school could enter the use of comp time, not the accrual of comp time. So for payroll purposes, there is a place in AS400 in which that could occur. But I think where Vanessa was, and I'm just using you, but I think you were the one that gave the passionate speech about, hey, look, sometimes we earn things, we're not sure if it's really been accredited or accrued properly. I'm not sure that right now you could go in AS 400, well, I know you couldn't go in and see that. So I met with, I told you I would go in and talk to all the people. Look, I would want to be able to say, yes, we could do this, but we can't. Now, with that said, could I have a chat with my principals? And if they wanted to create, they could ask their secretaries to create some kind of Excel spreadsheet where this might be able to be done. And I think some campuses already are doing this and others aren't. But to get consistency and to be able to say and put this in the contract, this is what we're gonna do, I can't give that guarantee at this time. What I'm saying to you is, I'm willing to keep this open and this dialogue moving because I'm willing to say yes to this. It's just that I just need to be able to have some assurances that we have the capability to do it software-wise. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Jim.
So it's not a no because I'm just saying, no, we don't want to do it, it's just that we can't do it right now.
All right, that's probably the stuff of caucuses, it sounds like. I'll get with the
Yeah.
team and decide if we're gonna push or change our language or change a request or withdraw or whatever. But that's something that we have to do. What I'm gonna do on my sheet over here, if you look at number 20,
Line 20?
line 20,
Uh-huh.
tribute to Rhonda, I figured out how to put the numbers on the paper. I think you yelled at me at the hall how to do it. So I'm just gonna check out, we've covered that one. All right,
Okay,
union request further discussion, well, we had further discussion.
yes.
So we owe you an answer of what we think of your language, well, which was discussion. So, okay, so we owe you to let you know where we're going. Okay?
Okay, hold on, let me put down in my notes. So I'm gonna put BFT
That's
owes
ours.
BPS.
We owe you a response to your
Yeah.
discussion. Thank you for good discussion, and we have to make a move on if we're gonna
Yeah,
offer different language or
Or
more
withdraw
language,
it,
or
or-
withdraw it, or
Yeah.
fight for it, or what we're
Okay.
gonna do.
Page, this would be line 9 on my sheet.
On your sheet?
Yep, line 9. Union offered on a day in which a teacher uses sick leave for a portion of a day, utilization of time before instructional hours or after instructional hours should be allowed. We offered on a day in which a teacher uses sick leave for a portion of a day, utilization of compensatory time before student instructional day or after student instructional day may be allowed. I think we rewrote that a little bit, and I think you had told me at the time when we made this offer, you all wanted to talk about it, so where are we with that?
Okay, well, I think you have, repeated your offer. This is lines 2 through 7 on our sheet, if you want to look at our sheet. And I think I captured what you did in that. I took the board's offer from 418,
Uh-huh.
and I tried to hopefully copy that faithfully down. What you have is a new offer on 727, I believe was same as your offer from 418.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's where you are. And so we actually have offered different language. You probably already need to read it, but the hang up is where you have may be allowed. Jim, when you say something may be allowed, that's basically not really giving us anything. What we want to be, just to refresh everyone's memory, we've already talked about this, but just to refresh everyone's memory, if a teacher is supposed to start at 8, they can't be until 10. They go to their principal, say, hey, I'm going to be out from 8 to 10. The principal says, no, you have to be out 8 to noon because I can't get a sub from 8 to 10. You got to be out 8 to noon. And the teacher says, well, that's kind of stinky. I have to take more time than I really needed to take. At least could the non-student time be comp time? All right, that's what we're going for. The non-student time, the 40 minutes that I have to be there before the students, and you don't need to find me a sub. We want that to be, well, we used to say comp timeable. We want that to be comp time. So you've made it that it may be comp time.
And you want shall.
Well,
That's the
I didn't
one.
rewrite it as shall. What I did, well, maybe I did write it.
Yeah.
All right, I wrote it as shall. But we go, it shall be allowed, given that you've done it properly. There's
right.
provisions about
So
it has to be
we're
2 days in
close.
advance. Yeah,
We're close. When I caucus, it's the shall, or do we want to stick with the may?
it's right, and it's provisions of, for comp time, if you're using it, you're supposed to ask 2 days in advance, or 3 days, I think it's 2 days in advance. You're supposed to have some manners about it, not just tell your principal 1 o'clock, you're going home, and charge the last half hour to comp time. I mean, you're not supposed to do that.
Okay,
So we'll try to keep our manners about it if y'all would allow that to happen.
so BPS will discuss.
And I guess now y'all can check off lines 2 to 7, that we covered that. I like that.
Okay.
Jim, I'll just put the, when y'all go off in caucus and everything, you're thinking about stuff, just had something interesting came in on a sticky here. As we try to promote these clinics, maybe it comes time to run out to use the clinic.
We can
Because
discuss
we wanna
that.
make
Why
sure
don't we
people want to
discuss
just
that
mull it
after?
about,
Yeah.
yeah, just something to do.
Okay.
Strike the word.
Teaching assignments.
Oh,
and
correct.
duties. This is lines 16 through 30.
Oh, we love that, yeah.
Okay, let's see which, have
That's-
you all countered or?
Yeah, let's see. It looks like you've just given it looks like you've reoffered what you had on the 18th, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we made a move here of some sort. We like the word assignments. For some reason, you're crossing that out. That's just what everybody knows, my teaching assignment. That's what I'm doing. I'm assigned to fourth grade, I'm assigned to gifted, I'm assigned to, algebra class. We like the word assignments, although preparations kind of, sort of, you could argue means the same thing. But
Well,
we say assignments.
I guess we were looking at it this way, just, and you're right, assignments, preps, but if Vanessa says, oh, I got 3 preps this year, I don't think she uses the word assignments. We were trying to go with what teachers usually use.
Preparation.
In other words, I have 3 preps, I have 2 preps, I have 1 prep.
I think it's the lingo of secondary versus elementary. Elementary teachers will run around and say my assignment for next year as
Oh,
opposed
okay.
to I got
All
second grade
right,
prep,
okay,
right?
that's, you gotta, guilty as charged, I'm not in the
I got
elementary.
kindergarten prep for next year. We don't really say that, right?
All right.
I'm looking at elementary, right? Okay. good,
So,
okay, good.
so we could go with assignments then, I mean, we have no hang up with that.
Okay, here's where we're hung up. In your last sentence where you propose something new, which seems reasonable, you're keeping the every effort. That means try not to shuffle up and churn everybody. Thank you. Then you've added a sentence, in the event the assignment may be necessary. Okay, the union has to admit sometimes you have to move people. It happens. We lost a section of kindergarten. We got to do it. Nobody signed up for your class. If you're taking class, we got to move. All right. So you're suggesting student data, sounds fair. Performance evaluation, sounds fair. Certification, well, yeah, don't put me where I'm not certified. Other relevant factors is so
I get it.
strange.
All right.
Vague, I'm sorry, vague, yeah. Really, if you want to be, if you want the phrase that means we're going to look at the entirety of your performance as a teacher, and the performance of, the entirety of how strong you are and what your strengths are, really, that's performance evaluation.
I think that we could come to a TA very closely on this. When you give us the time to talk, I believe we'll accept your language.
Okay, but now we did add something now,
Okay,
because we said we took out other relevant factors,
yeah.
and we replaced it, if you look at our offer on line 14,
Or it says teacher preference.
we
will be
put in
considered.
teacher preference. And I'm noticing this already, how a lot of principals are telling teachers, look, I moved you to fourth grade, but you asked for fourth grade. And teacher, oh, okay. And when teachers ask me, what's every effort mean? Usually principals get off the hook for moving someone if they pull out the little slip that says, look, I asked for their choices, their first choice was fourth grade. So I gave them fourth grade. And so that, principals are doing it already. And certainly if a teacher wants to move, we don't want to trap them. So
I don't want to fall into a trap, though, that we would go to some type of grievance where that would be the only reason. In other words, if I were a principal and I'm using student data, performance evaluation, certification,
Mhm.
and then let's just say those 3 things trumped what the preference of the teacher wanted to do we get into a grievance? I mean,
It just says you'll consider that, that's all.
all right, okay, that's why I want to make sure that all of them
If
are
you give a
given
teacher their
equal weight.
preference, I'm not going to agree
All right.
with you.
I would imagine we could come to an agreement on that, so we'll discuss it when we
So
slip
that
out.
covers our lines 9 through 14. I'm
Okay.
just keep score, check that out.
Lines 32 through 43. I think we're really close on teacher protection here. You had said, hey, Jim, we want to not randomly drug test people whenever they get hurt at school. Mark Langdorf, who is the risk manager, said,
that's-
fine, we'll go to random. I think there was some hesitation on you all
Oh,
not wanting to go to random because that's not quite what you're really after, but we have to be a drug-free workforce place. So there was some hedging on your all's part, I think, the last time we were discussing, where we were going to say, yeah, we'll agree to not, because we agree with you, we don't really want to drug test somebody when they get hurt. We don't want to do it. But in the course of trying to think of how we were going to randomly do this without having a lottery every Monday where we say, all right, Anthony Colucci, guess what? Congratulations.
You sure?
You didn't win the lotto.
That would be the first
but
lottery
you get to
I
go.
won.
You get to go there. You get to go to the employee. Yeah, you get to go to the employee clinic. You get to go to the employee clinic. We didn't want to set that kind of scenario up. So where are we with this?
Well, if you look at our line 17 on our sheet,
Yes.
you could have saved you a diatribe, but it was very fun.
Great, it's gone.
We have looked into that, and yeah, we'll live to fight another day, but we're not gonna,
Yeah.
we're not gonna have that. We're not gonna have teachers showing up and their name got
Thank
picked.
you. I didn't want to do that either.
Anthony tests
Good.
for oregano or something. No, we're not gonna do that.
Poppy seeds.
All right.
I'm in no condition to drive to the clinic. No, we're
Page
not.
2.
We're not gonna have that.
Page 2, line 1 through line 8. This is paid leaves, up to 3 days of bereavement. I've got to have discussion on this.
Okay, go on, discuss.
I want to have discussion. Where are you guys on this, so I can maybe save myself some breath if you've got.
Well, we're not withdrawing it. If that's what you're hoping.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I didn't. Are you? Do you have a line on here?
We've been, yes, where is it? We want further discussion. We're in agreement for further discussion,
All
line
right.
19.
Okay.
We very much would like, we see this as a topic that we could think outside the box on. If it's a pilot project, if it's not just straight up adding 3 more days, because I mean, we were asking for just straight up add 3 days of sick leave and call them bereavement leave, and we use them when we need them for grieving. Of course, no one looks forward to using that, but I think last time we had we spoke so long ago. Last time we were talking about maybe allowing teachers to gift their hours to each other. Let that be an internal process at the school, whether it was gifting their actual sick leave that shows up on a pay stub and make that an actual accounting back and forth, or gifting comp time, which would be truly in-house. You don't have to bother payroll with any of that. But if it couldn't be the whole county, if it had to be a couple schools of the county or a section of the county for now, just to pilot it, just to test it, to see how it goes. We don't want to give up on this.
All right.
We want to get some kind of foot in the door. Let's see if we can make something work and see if it's worth expanding.
Our position is this: we're going to stick to the delete. Here are the reasons why. We had worked out a plan to counter and to make this work for teachers, and it would work for teachers. But I would get into a serious ULP with my other bargaining unit because I would disparage one group against the other because I cannot afford to give bereavement to my support staff. I've worked 6 ways to Sundays with our attorney. I've worked 6 ways to Sundays with both teams. I want you to know I had this worked out for teachers, which I think if I'd have given you my proposal, you would have said, hallelujah, let's rock on. But I can't do it at this point. It's $2 million to be able to do bereavement day. And of course, if we took the teachers out using comp time, because remember, support staff doesn't use comp time, those dollars might go down from $2 million to whatever it might be that I would be able to have to refigure, but we don't have the money right now. I'd like to table this, I'd like to come back to it. I want you to know we're not in the business of saying no to employees with bereavement. We're not wanting to be bad people like that, just that I can't financially do it at this point, and I can't afford to afford to go to a ULP with my other bargaining unit. Now, you said pilot. I can't pilot this. I still would then be disparaging the other unit because I'd have to run a pilot with them, and there's no way to run a pilot with comp time because they don't earn comp time. I don't know how to get out of the pickle that I'm in, other than just to be honest and transparent with you all and just say, hey, we're willing to play ball with you all, but it's just not, this is not the time financially to be able to play ball.
Well, I would agree with you, if you were right. There's
Well, help me out.
there's no ULP because we got something in our contract and the other union
Well, the
didn't
way the
get it.
contract's written again with them, there would be, because they have an opener that says if other groups of employees get something or a benefit, we get to open the contract and
Well-
negotiate that same benefit.
Well, I didn't put that in there.
I know you didn't, and I know that that's not your worries, that's my worries, and
Well,
I
you
know
just-
that you don't want to hear that, but I'm up against, my back's against the wall.
Well, you just gave me a money offer that affects 10 of my employees. And let's face it, 12-month employees benefits them and benefits your principal. So you just put something out to your administrators and to the other union at the benefit of 10 of mine. So, I mean, we're not all being equal here with all the, I mean, you're under no obligation that you have to
Look, I'll take
give
the-
exactly the same in everything.
I can't do it again. I would be, I would be in a terrible state.
Well, we're gonna have to, we're not withdrawing it, but we'll have to caucus on it and figure out what we're gonna do about that.
Just
But
understand
I'm not buying that you can't do it for them, and so therefore we can't have it.
I mean,
Now, pilot is you look into something and then you see what you give us. We got all kinds of things in our contract, not in their contract.
that is true.
And personally, I think it's a little disingenuous for you in negotiating with us that, you know, something you can work out for us, you can't work out for them. Especially if it's a pilot, especially if we're trying to figure out how to do it. Okay? Really, if you all just, I mean, what do they need a bargaining unit for if you just have, they get whatever we get in their contract? I mean, you don't even need a union for that. So, anyway, I guess you could just give us that in the contract, it'd just be recursive and we don't even have to do this. So, all right. Well, we'll caucus and we'll let you know where we are now. That would cover, where did I have bereavement leave on here?
Line 19.
Line 19?
Line 19.
Okay, so we had our discussion. All right, we're getting through it.
Lines 10 through 27, unpaid leaves. This deals with page 57 through page 59. Do you have anything here, Dan, in your line 18? So you're
Line
resubmitting AC
18.
language for leaves.
We've resubmitted. Here's all we're asking for. Well, I'm sorry, it's your
Yeah.
show here. What do you,
What I'm able to say to you is what I said last time. We don't want to get into a position where, especially folks who are on leave, do not have a summative part 1, or they may not even have a summative part 2. So the evaluation piece is it's problematic. Treating annual contract teachers and moving them quasi into PSC status is also problematic. So we're wanting to delete this because we feel right now, look, the way it works right now, if you really want to be an annual contract teacher and you want to go out on leave and then you want to come back and you return and you're good, you're going to get a good job. You're going to get a job. If you're highly effective or effective when you left that, you're coming back. The other problem we get into is this. If I hired Dan Bennett because somebody went out on maternity leave, and then they decided after maternity leave, after their FMLA ran out, that they wanted to extend their leave to stay home with their new child, and I extended your short-term contract through the end of the year, now you've worked almost a full year with me. You're an annual contract teacher, yet the annual contract teacher that went out and stayed out a whole year, that person gets to bump you. So I don't want to get into saying you're more of a valuable annual contract teacher than you are. because there's a contractual right that I'm saving your job, even though now you've worked in that job for a full year. I don't want to get into,
If they're both summative one, they should both be enjoyed.
well, no, because Dan, you would not
If
have a
they both-
summative one because you're on a short-term contract.
Well, the principal can hire them back.
Think about what I've just said
If
there.
you've got a short term that picked up somewhere during the year and it got extended or for whatever reason, it went out the rest of the year, if they didn't get a summative, because whenever they got hired, they didn't think they'd do it, no reason the principal couldn't extend a job offer to them. It's not, it wouldn't be automatic in the
If they don't have the
contract.
allocation, because the allocation is really being held by the teacher who's out on leave.
Are we talking about level or years of experience? Because who would have,
Well,
is the
that's-
one
we
that's
don't-
just coming into the district wouldn't have, because what, you have to have the 1 year first before you even get that. So if the person's on a short term, then they're not to the level that the other one was before they went out.
We don't years of
No,
experience.
we
There's
don't.
seniority.
We
Right.
don't go
Seniority
by
there.
that.
We don't have seniority in
I want
any
Vicki to speak
contract.
because you brought up something very important in your
Yeah,
example.
I spoke to 2 teachers in this situation just this morning. And what you're doing is discriminating against women because the ones that it's killing are young women who get pregnant. They are either out because they just had the baby or they want to go on child rearing leave and they have a choice. They can now come back or they lose their job. Now, this is really asking for some kind of legal move.
I don't think so, because FMLA is guaranteed by federal law that you get 12 weeks of child rearing or any kind of FMLA. Then after FMLA is over, then you get a leave of absence. And it would be, how can it be discriminatory? Because if you're out for a sickness or taking care of a loved one at home who might, or a spouse who might be sick, or you just want to
But
be
it's
out
gonna affect
on child
every
rearing.
young woman who
Maybe
has
no.
a
Some
child.
What
women,
what
like my
happens,
wife,
Jim?
didn't want to come back.
Jim, what
Didn't want her
happened?
to come back to work.
Jim, here's what happens. This is the specific scenario, and we've got at least one, if not 2.
I got 2.
They have the child, and there's less than, fewer than, or, they don't have 12 weeks left in the school year, all right? So they exercise their FMLA because they've had the child in late March or April or early May. So they're an annual contract teacher, and they ride out the year on FMLA, and the 12 weeks is somewhere in the middle of summer,
Okay.
right? They don't have a job to come back to. They finish the year on leave.
They would have to come back on FMLA, they would have to.
No, wait a minute.
No, they don't. That's the problem.
Say,
They don't get to come back.
If somebody, if they're,
You get 12 weeks of
right.
FMLA, and it's controlled by the doctor's note. And most time on a normal maternity, it's 4 to 6 weeks. Unless there's a problem with your health or the health of the infant, the FMLA will end when the doctor says it ends. So at that point, if they choose to take child rearing for the rest of that school year, they can do that. If they want to take another year, say they had the baby in March, they get 6 weeks FMLA, and they're going to take the rest of the year as child rearing. They can take the rest of the school year as child rearing. They decide they're going to stay home another year. That's unpaid personal. That's their conscientious
And that's what's
decision.
not being granted.
Right. They don't-
I
they
can
don't-
give you a name in the school, which
Because
I'm
it's
not
not-
got on a
No,
camera.
As-
But
as-
that's the problem.
All right, well, hold, the two
But
things
the
are,
principal has the right to determine whether they're going to
No.
grant an unpaid personal or
no,
not.
there's no such thing in our contract as an unpaid personal leave for an annual contract teacher.
that's right.
That's
And-
because the state.
But they should have that.
The state took
PSEs
a
get it.
stand.
Especially
Okay,
child
they're
rearing.
not
Okay, we should, I'm telling you that they should get it.
I don't think
And
legally you can.
of course you can, if we
No,
negotiate it,
legally I
we
can't
can.
go against what the state took away tenure. Legally, I can't put it back in the contract and that's what you're
I'm
asking.
not, no, hold on. There's, you cannot legally give them a PSC contract. But we can negotiate locally that they get to have a leave.
And that's why,
But you're asking them to be reappointed over the summer if that pregnancy falls at a certain time of the year, yes?
I'm asking that, well, okay, yes, the
Yeah.
two situations
And
came
that's what I
up.
can't do because I can't
Yes,
go
you
against
can.
states. No,
We
I
can
can't.
negotiate.
I've talked about
You
this
can't give them a
extensively with
PSC.
our lawyer. about it,
You
and I
don't
am
have, oh
not.
God, don't tell me what Harold Beislein said. So he has
I'm telling you
law
what the
degree.
state statute says, so I do have to go by legal interpretation of the state statute. We are not allowed as a bargaining collaborative body to give tenure, whether you call it PSC, CC.
You're not giving, I'm not
Annual
asking for
tenure
that.
is
Yes, but you
non-existent.
are.
I'm asking if you're an annual contract
Can I
teacher.
talk? Because I've listened
I'm
this whole
sorry,
time.
go ahead.
I've listened. When you are asking me, somebody who is on an annual contract, this is my interpretation of what you're saying. Somebody who's on a annual contract this year, new to us, they get pregnant, say, at the beginning of the year, and so they're having a baby in March, April, or May. You want that principal to give them that extended leave that we offer to our employees through the end of December, say, if they want to. Not only the FMLA, but the extension maybe through the end of that year, which would guarantee them employment for the following year. That's what you're asking.
Not through December, where did December come out?
Well,
We don't make sure we
the
get-
extension, if you look in our contract, when they talk about a personal leave, it's the extension of the current year that they're in, not the school year, it's the annual year.
No, it's school. We do it school year.
Okay, so you're not saying that you want them to be able to come back in August if they have a baby in April, you want them to be able to have that job come August or September when they decide to come back? Is that what you're asking?
Well, there's a couple things, but yes, in that situation, yes, I would want them to be
Okay,
able
well,
to.
that's what I can't do.
Let me see if I make sure I understand what you're saying, so I can tell you what I just said yes to. Teacher had the baby, tax day, April 15th, they had the baby.
Okay,
So they go on FMLA,
right,
all right? Doctor puts them out, and whatever the date of return is, it's after finals week,
right,
okay? They're on their leave.
right.
Now, we already have contract language that they could be, if they're coming back first day pre-planning, they should be able to come back, if they got in the summative one and it went well, right now, they should be able to come back first day pre-planning. If the
Should.
summative, if the
That's what
summative
you're-
one was done,
Should.
and if they had the-
Doesn't necessarily mean they will.
right,
You're
now, I'm
saying
just saying, if they make the decision, if they're ready to come back, if they're ready to
See,
arrange.
it's not on them, it's on whether the school board, whether Brevard Public Schools wants to bring them back and gives them that, honors that contract again.
Okay,
It's
we
not-
we have in our contract, we have in our collective bargaining agreement right now, that if they have done 2 years, 2 summative ones in a row, and both of those are effective or highly effective. So if they're finishing their 2nd, 3rd, or 10th year with us,
Right,
and they're highly effective, and that got in before the baby was born, all right, then they would be automatically reappointed. They could finish the year on a medical leave, maternity or medical or otherwise, and then they could come back during pre-planning. They could be reappointed, and they're back during pre-planning.
okay.
That's already there.
And that's
we
what I
don't-
want, and I want to make sure I'm speaking to the same section that you are. So if you will just bear with me
Mhm.
a minute.
Sure.
Go
It
ahead.
sounded to me like we were talking about a teacher who may have wanted to take part of the next year or maybe the entire year.
That is what
That is
we're,
correct.
Like, they want to take 16, 17 off as unpaid personal, and then be able to come back 17, 18, and be guaranteed a job. Is that what we're doing? Have the baby in April, then 16, 17, I'm not coming back, I'm staying home with the
That-
baby.
that is
And then I
one-
want to come back 17, 18.
that is one such scenario that's on the table. Suddenly, I find out I'm fighting for job security for teachers that have summative one good evaluations, and they just want to come back for pre-planning. So now I find out I'm fighting for something I already have in my contract.
No.
So well, she's asked for a break to look it up in the contract, so we're going to wait for her to find the section so we can refer to the same section.
Yeah, I've got 32. It was a different section though. Are we going to caucus or are we
Well, we've not gotten through all of the language.
Okay, can we come back to this one?
We can come back. Dan, can we come back to this? Can we go,
No.
can I move through the other items and then we can come back to this?
Well, if you'd like to, yeah, if you're researching or discussing.
Okay, we're making, item number 7 on my list, it's on page 2, it starts on line 29, and it goes through line 48.
Wait, hold on, where are we?
the second page.
All right, yeah, welfare, where it says welfare
Yes,
benefits?
Yes. Guys, we're gonna make a new offer today across the table, one we'd
Did
like
we
you
not?
to discuss. I
So
think
this is a first-time offer for today?
it is.
Jim, didn't we put this in an LOU already? Or did we not? You wanted to, this is sounding so familiar that we already took the 45 days and cut it down to 30. Is that essentially what you're doing? New hire has to wait 30 days instead of 45?
Guys, I don't have any,
I think this
Where
is
did-
gonna
where did
mirror
you have that,
the
don't
LOU, but this is the language that's supposed to go in the contract.
Oh,
Okay.
I think what's happening, according to Mark, is he needs to, we don't have language that says that you have the 30 days when you first come to work for the district, or if you go from a part-time sub to a full-time and you're eligible for benefits. You have 30 days to enroll, and then your benefits are available to you with your cards and everything on the 46th. What we're having happen, Mark told me, was that they will wait until the 45th day
45th.
to enroll, and then they think that they should have their cards and everything, and they don't.
they've gotta wait.
And then they end up getting back billed for the benefits. So we're just trying to get them
We're making it
to
clear.
enroll within the 30 days on the
So they still have,
46
so they
days.
still have a 45-day window
Yes,
before they
yes,
get
yes.
benefits?
But just go ahead and start enrolling. And I think
Yeah,
the
we're trying to
language
get
needs
them
to
to
be
enroll
more.
I thought
within
we
the
already,
30 days.
didn't we have an LOU something about they were gonna start the benefits at 30 days?
No, 45. It's never been. It's just normally in a
I don't have
change
the
in
LOU
family
with me,
status,
so I'm
you have
actually-
30 days. But a lot of the teachers don't understand that they should really enroll in within 30 days. So we have time to do the download, get their cards, get everything set up. They got it in their hand on the 46th day. If they're not enrolling on the 45th, thinking that they're going to get all their benefits that day.
We're supposed to end at 4 o'clock, right?
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to research our LOU and just see what that is, because that's, yeah, you're calling it a new offer. I mean, I trust it is a new offer, but it seems very familiar. You ever get that feeling like you've seen that before?
Dan, on page 3. What I'm trying to do, Dan, is this. I like to, I've only got 7 minutes, so I'm trying to honor our time. What I'd like to do is get through this real quick, because I think that there are at least 2 TAs that we could come to an agreement on. I'd like to try to caucus for at least 2 or 3 minutes prior to 4 o'clock. If I'm a betting man, I think we could probably TA, we might be able to TA teaching assignment and duties, and I think that you all would probably want to TA the Brevard Public Schools line. This is on page 3, item number 9. It is lines 12 through 35. Those are just the updates in the appendix of our contract. You can see that we've just taken the Brevard Public Schools Health Plan, scratched 2016 and put in 2017. The following rates are based upon a monthly calculation.
You've done that.
We've done the calculation. Are you laughing because there's something wrong?
You said, no, you said all we've done is this, and you've done more than that, but,
Yeah, we've
Well, I
got
mean, is it
tiered
bad or
rates.
good?
No, we've got tiered rates now.
Yeah.
yeah, what you
No
did.
increase in cost.
Yeah, this has to do with, in 18, there's a Cadillac tax that kicks in based on board
Yes.
contributions, and you just have to get your numbers
I
in
mean,
line.
am I saying something offensive? Because this is really.
No,
hard.
I'm sorry, no, it
Yeah.
was a smile, it wasn't, it wasn't a grimace, it was a.
I was gonna
it's
say,
hard to
this is
tell,
hard
but-
language, and he thought you all would be really, really okay with
Yeah,
this.
this is, just so we know, this has already been vetted, I'm gonna agree to this pretty quickly, this has already
Yeah.
been vetted through the insurance committee.
Right.
We made a recommendation that yes, it has to happen, because if we don't, what happens is there's a nasty tax that
That's
kicks
right.
in 2018 or 19, I'm looking, like it may penny knows, but it's a nasty tax kicks in if we don't
I
adjust
don't
the ratios.
Right.
So,
that-
employee contributions are absolutely the same, which is why I'm fine TAing this for you right now.
Okay, so you can agree to TA that. Thank you.
Today is 7/27. I'm looking at above it, we are concerned about, you and I make agreements at the table, we put things into the contract, and then principals say, well, at this school, this is what we're gonna do, and they violate the contract, which is why we have that line, which is why I'm gonna counter that by saying resubmit to you, so you may mark that on your paper that I've resubmitted that to you.
This is what.
Right, but they deleted all of it. Their offer is to delete what we've asked
So,
for.
hold on, where on your language there are we talking about lines 2 through 10? Is that,
That's Article 20.
I don't see that on our, I apologize, I don't see that on our sheet.
No, it's not.
But on your page, the, I guess line 6 through 9, 6 through 8, that stuff that's underlined, that was some language that we had tossed to you, and your response is delete, and so our response to you is to resubmit
okay, so you'll resubmit that at our next session?
at 7/27. Again, that is an earth-shattering. We're gonna see school improvement plans coming out soon. And so, I guess we'll know if principals are up to it or not, so we'll know how urgent it is for this
Okay.
language as those are crafted. Hint, hint. Did you catch a hint there? If principals aren't adding stuff, like if I don't have schools that are saying we're all doing UBD universally this year, then it becomes less critical that we do that.
All right, will you allow me to step out of the courtyard there, caucus with my team? We'll come right back in and hopefully we can honor maybe we might be able to 5 minutes past 4 o'clock. I think this is what else we need to do.
Which one are we
maybe.
looking at? Just,
I want to caucus over teaching assignments and duties.
which is, I'm sorry, help me out on
That would be, that would be on the first page.
Got it. You're looking at lines like 29, 30, something like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What I'd like for you, would you all do me a favor? While we're caucusing over this, we'll also discuss out there when we like to return to the table with you all. Could you all discuss that as well?
We'll look at calendars, okay.
That way you all have your calendars
That's
out.
fair. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did actually.
I'm gonna let Zerker. I'm gonna let the two of you work, and I gave you all some homework to work on for some numbers and things like that, and so, you know, when you have a better feel of what's coming or doing or researching whatever strange things I gave you to do, you'll do that, and you'll let me know, and then we'll set up a bargaining day, ready to come back and talk numbers. Either Dan, we looked at it and we can't find it, or you're right or you're wrong, or whatever, that's when we're ready to come back and do more. All right? For now, the only statement I have for you is is that on?
Yeah.
I guarantee that I will defend the rights of annual contract teachers that are currently in our contract. It has been implied that they don't even have the rights that are there. So as I begin to expand their rights, or discuss expanding their rights, I guarantee I will defend what is already there. And you want to make sure that everybody knows what those rights are before they comment at the table. And that's all I have for you
One
for
thing I
today.
ask, just
All right.
as an HR person and a professional that we are sitting at the table, if you would please refrain from using profanity at the table, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I never did say the F word.
Okay. I'll get
Thank
with you then, and we'll set up another date.
Yes.
All right.
If you'll let me know, we'll be back at 4:30.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.